I have actually kept this whole course very open-ended so far. I mean, I have not mentioned exactly how many classes or how many sections there are going to be, because I wanted to first see the response of the people, how they are going to respond, how much involvement they can have. So I'm just waiting to see how much involvement people are going to have. Then I will decide, when to end it or how long to carry it on. So I'm still keeping it very kind of open-ended so far. I mean, I had a list of themes that I want to talk about, on which we should have some kind of training or some kind of exposure, but I didn't really fix sort of like targets as to we have to finish this at this time, because I want to see how people respond, how they're really, how much time they can give to this. So I believe that a few new people might join today, those who haven't seen the first one, who haven't
Right.
participated in the first one. So let's see. Um, Hello, is that Manan? Is that Manan? Okay, okay. I can't hear you, but it's okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay, fine. Yeah.
We will usually keep everybody mute when
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
doing the conversation. Then we'll see. So I think I'll begin, because I had told everyone to try to be on time. But let's see. I mean, maybe there are a couple of more people joining in. So in a couple
Hmm.
of minutes, we should start.
Right, sure, yeah.
So for those of you who haven't, who are here for the first time, who didn't see the last one, basically this is a course that we have started on countering online hate and fake news and all this propaganda. And as I had mentioned earlier, it's not really a career advancement course. It's more of a movement where we all need to collect our energies and see how we can um, counter this online hate. Last time I gave a very generic introduction to a number of things, starting with what has been the history of the use of this, or the rather misuse of this media, how political parties and corporations and everyone has been using internet and Facebook and WhatsApp, etc., to either win elections or to win some kind of corporate gains, etc. And there are references, there are studies available on that. Then we talked about what we as individuals can do. So there are advices, that suggestions that I made last time. So there are several things we can do apart from fact checking and photos checking, etc. The most important is to actually enter into the discussions and try to try to influence the discussions, online discussions that are going on, because those are really very, very crucial spaces online. A large number of people are spending their time on internet, and what happens is that sometimes when they are spending time with people of their own kind, people of their own thinking, then it's all right, it's fine, they share ideas, they share things among themselves, and it just goes on like that. But when you have somebody entering into that space who differs from their viewpoint, who does not uh, you know who does not agree with their viewpoint, that's where the conflict begins. And I think it's important that whether we are in real lives or on cyberspace, we should not have such spaces where thinking of only one kind is propagated. We need variety. We need a lot of diversity of thoughts. That's the importance of democracy. So there are several things we mentioned in the first one. I mean, the recording is available. If you haven't seen, you can see that. Today, I wanted to focus a little bit more on WhatsApp, because that is something that touches our lives much more. Of course, there are other things, but WhatsApp, because everybody, almost 95 to 96% people in India who have the smartphone have WhatsApp on them, and whether it's rural or urban, everywhere. So I just want to mention a few practical advice as to how to handle WhatsApp, what all we can do to reduce the propagation of hatred and so on. So um, let's see, let me start by showing you the slides that I have. Okay, so this is what we want to get into. Just trying to see, I want to reduce this so that more space is devoted on the slideshow. Okay, there are we all know that India is one of the biggest market for WhatsApp, with 200 million people, or maybe more at times. It becomes 300 million users of WhatsApp. In fact, it's the largest market. No other country, even Brazil, is kind of lagging behind us. And there are many things. Actually, I don't want to really show statistics, because those, I mean, we all know the general impression of these statistics as to what is the reach of WhatsApp, whether it's a poor or lower middle class, upper middle class, in rural areas, urban areas, and how it is increasing. So I don't really want to go into the statistics. You can find them all online, but it's important to see what we can do in it. I mean, it's in urban India, it's rising continuously, and you can see the age group. The youngsters are the biggest users of WhatsApp, and they are the ones who are really propagating all kinds of messages. And we all know that WhatsApp is being misused. It's being used in certain way to spread hatred and even violence. And I'm not talking about just communal hatred. It's all kinds of hatred. There are lynchings which have taken place for child abduction, and that is really a bad, an ugly thing which has happened in rural India. That somebody says that so and so car is going on that highway, and that guy is abducted a child, and then people in the next village, they receive these messages and they stop the car and things like that, and then they beat up that guy. There's several such cases that have happened. So, and obviously the government as well as the WhatsApp company has been aware of it, and they're trying to see what they can do. Then more deliberate attempts, as we have seen very recently this year itself, how the Northeast Delhi violence WhatsApp groups were created to spread hate just before the surge in the Delhi violence. This happened in February, and then in January in JNU, if you remember, there was some goons who had entered and they beat up students, etc. And how just before that, several WhatsApp groups were formed to mobilize the crowd. So these kinds of things are happening, and I mean, it seems like there are groups of people who are very well versed as to how to use WhatsApp, to get urgent messages and get immediate results through this medium. So it's quite dangerous. But later on in this presentation, I'll also talk about what are the other sort of positive aspects of WhatsApp. So it's not only negative, but right now it's the this kind of violence where it takes. So there are studies available as to how many lynchings have taken place because of the WhatsApp attacks. This is only 2018. More may have happened after that. So it's a reality. And then, of course, the way WhatsApp was used to win elections, and especially this post-Pulwama kind of thing, which happened, lakhs and lakhs of messages were spread around. So that's the story that we all know how WhatsApp is being used for election campaigns. Now, the company itself is trying hard to have some kind of awareness campaigns. They put out these full page ads which talk about how you need to fact check, how you need to verify a news before you can forward it, and so on, and how to stop the spread of any kind of fake news. So the company is doing that. It has also come up with some video ads which probably came on TV, and you can see them online. So the company is doing a little bit, but after all, there has been this debate that whether technology can stop rumors, whether technology can really be used to stop rumors and fake news. And the debate is still kind of there is no definite answer to it, because the technology can always be misused. It can I mean, even if you try to have some sort of stoppage, some sort of barriers, people are always there to overcome those barriers and find ways and means to do things. So the most important, I mean, apart from this specific messages that we send to people, the more important is the groups, the WhatsApp groups that are formed. And there are several types of groups. There are family groups, there are groups of school and college alumni and cohorts, there are temporary work action groups, there are business professional groups, and there are these resident welfare associations, which I find as the most dangerous ones. Then there are groups based on ideology, religion. There are groups with really communal kind of agenda, and then there are lots of fun type of things that are there. And maybe some of you are part of a couple of these groups. Now, one good thing about such a medium is that there is no hierarchy of people who join. I mean, there can be several types of people. There may be people who are very highly educated. There are people who are not so educated. So that is an advantage as well as a disadvantage, in the sense that a lot of people who are educated or thinking or liberal, they are also bombarded with the same kind of messages, and they often leave such groups. So I have very often heard that people say, oh, I left my family group, or I left my alumni group because I could not stand those messages, I could not stand those things. Now, this is something that I keep wondering whether it's a good idea. If you are working like a like a volunteer or a person who wants to do something about this menace, then should we leave those groups, or should we be part of the groups and try to make an intervention? And I am always in favor of making an intervention, because that's the only way we can make some change. Otherwise, those groups will continue forwarding, continue making all those stupid things. And this actually, there is a this whole liberal left oriented secular people that we have in this country. They always try to they assume that they are above everyone else because they are liberal and intellectual. So they don't want to get into this business of all this upper lower middle class or whatever, less educated people. They don't want to get into that space, and they think that it's not our cup of tea. I can't handle that. So that is a problem. I feel that unless we enter that space, unless we break those barriers of the social hierarchy, we can't really address address this issue. So I believe that if we want to work as volunteers, we have to enter these spaces, and there are ways to enter the spaces, and there are ways to do something about it. So there is a whole list of things that one can do. I can forward these things. Like, there are rules that when you make a group on WhatsApp, think of a purpose. And even if it's a family group, think of a purpose, that okay, the family group, the purpose is to share family photographs, family occasions, or something like that. And let's not get into anything else other than this. Or if it's an entertainment group, then the purpose is that. So this is something that it's very important. If you are part of a group, think of a purpose of the group, and keep reminding people that please stick to the purpose. Don't forward things which are not required in this. So, and then the very large groups can be very dangerous or unmanageable. So keep a small and focused group. Then also, before you post anything, and these are rules that you can tell people, before you post anything, think about it, whether it's verified, whether it's relevant, whether it's necessary, is it good time to post, is my language appropriate, all these things think about. Then don't post a disturbing news unless you are 100% sure that it's true. Always include a link to the source where you found it, or the name of the person who sent you. If you're not sure of the authenticity, then say that it's unconfirmed. Then make a rule that if anyone posts a rumor or a fake news without confirming it, they will be removed from the group, and stick to those rules. Never use WhatsApp for provoking, inciting, or persuading people to immediately come out on the street for an action. This is something, and it has happened, like for the riots and for attacks, it has happened. People sent messages, and actually people came out on the streets. But forget about the violence, but let's talk about, let's say, accidents or natural disasters. If there is something like maybe earthquake or a fire in the building or something, why use WhatsApp? That's the worst thing to use, because how many people will be immediately looking at the WhatsApp? So that's a bad, so even if it's an accident or a calamity, maybe voice calling or shouting or banging or doing something which actually attracts the attention of the people, rather than sending messages. WhatsApp should never be used for an urgent message. This is what I believe. Then if somebody sends you something disturbing or exciting, something, don't forward it if it may lead to violence. And only positive kind of things should be shared. Then there are more rules, like if some member sends too many messages every day, create a rule that you can send only 3 messages per day, or whatever suits you. If you do too much of debating between 2-3 people, others will lose interest and they may not read important messages. And this has happened in several WhatsApp groups, that let's say there are 100 members or 200 members of a group, and 2-3 members keep fighting, keep sending each other something, and keep debating. And after a point, all the rest, they lose interest, and they stop even looking at the messages. And that way, what happens is that if you send something important, they won't even read that. So try to, and if you are an administrator, even if you are not an admin of the group, tell people that don't just have 2-3 people discussing something. Let's have more people join in. Then when you make a group, don't add people without asking them, and if they want to leave, they should be able to leave. And there are a lot of nasty things people do, like a lot of unnecessary things, like people keep sending these messages, thank you, okay, great, wow, those kind of things. Avoid, because that really increases the traffic as well as your time and energy and etc. Then no spamming, no advertisement, no personal messages to a single member again and again. And also you keep getting these good morning messages, and all those happy birthday. Oh my god, in many big groups, if somebody's birthday, like thousands of happy birthday messages will come. So try to avoid the traffic as much as possible. Again, keep a focus to the group. Also tell people that don't if you want to send a long message, then you send it in one chunk rather than sending one line, one line after another. So that also, you know, it's very irritating when somebody is sending several things in several lines. Again, timing, you know, what time you are sending, don't send it at late night. And then if somebody gets upset by your post or reply, either apologize to the group or write privately to them. It's always better to call people and clarify, etc. So these are very generic rules, and you know, every group should have these kind of rules, because it's good not only for reducing the hatred and all that, but also to kind of keep the internet a healthy place, keep all these the you know, so that you don't have unnecessary things in your life. You know, we have to reduce these unnecessary things in our life. Now, this is a very important thing. Many people, in fact, had asked me this, that, you know, how do you deal with the family and the RWA groups? Because those are the most you know, more troublesome groups, especially when you find some objectionable post on a family group or a RWA group. And if you want to answer it or to oppose it, what do you do? So, I mean, firstly, you have to be very careful. You have to exercise a lot of patience and restraint. Don't you know, overreact to something. Be extra cautious, courteous and respectful and loving to everyone. You know, send like little loving kind of things, that, oh, you know, I really respect you, but, you know, this message that you have sent is, you know, little problematic, and this is how I feel it's problematic, and so on. Also, you know, whether you are a religious person or a atheist or whatever, but this is another something that, you know, people, most people in these RWA or family groups are very religious people, and you know, a lot of religious messages, a lot of religiosity is there. If you don't like it at all, then you leave that group. But if you have to be there on that group, then you have to deal with it very carefully. You know, don't hurt their sentiments and all that. You know, I mean, a lot of liberal people say that, what about my sentiments? You know, if I am careful about their religious sentiments, why are they not careful about my liberal sentiments or whatever? So it's a big debate. But I always believe that if you are more educated or liberal or whatever, and if you want people to become, you know, more open minded, then you have to treat them with kid glove. You have to treat them very carefully, so that they don't get offended very soon. You know, then another thing is this patriotism. A lot of patriotic messages come on these things, so you can tell them that, look, I am also patriotic, I also respect and love my country as much as you do, but let's not go overboard with that. So, you know, patriotism and this religion is these are the two things which are most common in family groups and RWA groups. And sometimes they also try to judge you, because, you know, most people on these groups, if you are a liberal left type of person, they know you. They know that this guy is a little different, and, you know, he or she objects to many things that we do. So somehow we have to develop some kind of a you know, environment or ecology of you know, mutual respect. But at the same time, you have to put your point across. Then you are putting your point across when you are debating with them. You have to show, you have to quote authentic links and sources, if you want to disprove their claim and prove yourself. Sometimes the language also is important. You know, English, it's good to type in English, but a lot of people don't follow English. A lot of people type Hindi or their local language in Roman script. Sometimes they type in their own script. So probably it's sometimes it's more effective to communicate in Hindi or local language than English. Although I find it very irritating to type Hindi in Roman, because it can have misunderstand. You know, people can misunderstand a few words in it. So you have to be careful that you are very clear. You know, clarity is very important. Sometimes people send you a comment or a message, and they've typed it hurriedly, and they have made typographical mistakes as well as the grammatical mistakes, and half the things you don't follow what they're saying, so you ask them again and again. So clarity is very important. Don't keep everything very short, try to make it as clear as possible. Then in some of these groups, family groups, RWA groups, a lot of people complain, oh, so and so community is a bad community, they're the villains, and they are the ones who have done this, done that. This is something that you have to deal with very carefully. And basically, I mean, the standard answer is that, look, if 1 or 2% of that community have done something bad, it doesn't mean that the whole community is like that. Don't blame the entire community for the fault of 1 or 2 people. And this is a case with all communities. There are good and bad people in all communities. So this is something that you have to specify. Otherwise, people take it in one direction, and then it keeps on going in that direction. People will continue to abuse one community. Oh, because this person has done something bad, so the whole community is like that. ये तो ऐसे ही होते हैं, ये तो गंदे होते हैं, ये ऐसे होते हैं, इस तरह की बातें. So you have to
वो मेरा मीटिंग चल रहा
है. Do that, and keep posting positive links and information about communal harmony, tolerance, coexistence, because these are very, I always believe that when there is a lot of hate being propagated, like the fire of hate is kind of a flame, then you have to put the cold water of love on it to bring the flame, to bring the fire down. So if somebody is posting something really hateful, don't react to them. Instead, post something positive, post something nice, post that, look, here is a story where Hindus and Muslim came together to do something interesting, to do something positive. Here is a story from history where Hindus and Muslim did something positive. So those kind of stories, I've always seen that they reduce that fire of hate. That suddenly people become a little quiet for some time, when they say, oh, somebody is posting something which is completely opposite of what we are doing. And when you're posting something positive, obviously they can't object to that. Of course, they may object to that also sometimes. It may happen. So you have to be very careful. For example, I'll give you an example. There was a photo. Recently, all this COVID-19, when this whole thing was going on, and this Tablighi Jamaat and the Madarsa, the whole campaign which was going on. So there was a photograph of which showed some madarsa children wearing caps, offering water to people on a railway platform. So somebody posted saying that, look, at least the madarsa students are doing this. So the other guys, they said, oh, what about, they are not even wearing mask, and they are like that, they spit into the water and this, that, and the other. So these kind of things also happen. So you have to be very careful about what you post. Anyway, I just got a message from Zoom saying that your time will be over. I mean, this time they're going to probably end this meeting at 40 minutes. So in about 10 minutes, maybe I will send another invite to another meeting to you if this finishes. So anyway, there are several measures that can be taken by activists and agencies. There is a number on which you can send if you find some wrong kind of information. You can report to some fact-checking websites. You can find. Another thing is that we have to involve a lot of rural people into this kind of campaign. If you know any rural people in the villages, maybe some local journalists, bring them in and tell them that please send these good messages across all over, because they will help. And lastly, another thing which I want to, in fact, somebody suggested to me that why are we only talking about WhatsApp? What about the other alternatives to WhatsApp? So yes, there are alternatives available. There is Telegram, there is Signal, and you can create the same kind of groups on those also. I'm using Telegram for other things. So we can definitely do that, because that will help, firstly, not relying totally on one company, Facebook, WhatsApp, and trying other companies also, and also maybe the government's surveillance or something, whatever is happening, we may be able to avoid that. So we have to look at all these things. So there are alternatives available that we should promote. These alternatives, if you have to make a group, then you do it on Telegram maybe, or do it on some something else. Then there are cyber crimes that you can report in Delhi and other places. There is the cyber cell of the police, and also some governments are definitely taking action on this. Maharashtra has arrested some people. This is just a very recent report, in fact. So these kind of things are happening. Another thing, just before I end, because I have a feeling in 7 minutes we might end this. I'll open another meeting after that. Another thing which is very disturbing is that when you send a WhatsApp group link to somebody, when you ask somebody to join a WhatsApp group, those links are being picked up by Google and they are available online, so anybody can join your group. This is something very dangerous, and apparently, like for example, I found many sites where they are listed groups which you can join by looking at this link. By clicking on this link, you can actually join a group. So I mean, even my group, somebody can join if they find that link somewhere. So this is very dangerous, and we have to be careful about, if you create a group, keep checking who all are the members. Do you know all the members? If you don't know anybody, find out who they are. It's important. It's very easy these days to, if you have the phone number, it's very easy to find out the name of that person. Even if by name you can't recognize, then you can always call them or send messages and ask them. So it's important to know who is joining your group. Otherwise, this is something really scandalous. Like, I found all these websites where you can actually just click on these links and you join these. It's also interesting that actually you can join these and find out what's going on. I mean, these are very dangerous they look very dangerous groups. You can actually join them and go and find out what's going on. Maybe post your positive message, because that's another important thing that we need to do. We need to post good messages, important messages to all these groups. But it's dangerous, it's risky, because if you enter there, people will know your phone number and maybe your name. So it's important to know what's going on with WhatsApp, and that's how it's important to try the other alternatives also. This is another website on which I found. And there are thousands and thousands of people on each of these groups. And sometimes, another thing which is irritating that I find in many of these groups, WhatsApp groups as well as Facebook groups, that they are very, very male chauvinistic groups. Even if they are talking about political things, they're male chauvinistic group. They, to attract people, they keep posting all kinds of pornographic and all kinds of women and beautiful this that, those kind of messages they keep posting to attract more people. That's another rather disturbing thing. So in fact, as I have there are some of our friends who keep saying, whenever they find such messages, they say, they write a comment that, you are talking about this sanskari kind of Bharatiya sanskari sort of tradition, and what is this you are showing? You are showing these women and pornography and all this. Is this part of your sanskar? And then that disturbs them somehow. So this is another aspect that I find very disturbing in some of these groups. Yeah, so I was talking about the positive aspects of WhatsApp. So some people are actually using WhatsApp for positive things also, like for in the suicide prone areas, WhatsApp is bringing some change. And there is a guy who's running almost like a news broadcast channel through WhatsApp, and he's even making money through that. And then the WhatsApp is being used for farmers. I found this academic kind of paper. So we can't completely, reject WhatsApp. We have to probably use it more for some positive kind of things, because it's medium, any medium can be used for anything, for bad things or the good things. So we have to use it for good purposes. So let's think of some strategies as to how WhatsApp can be used or other media can be used to bring positive change rather than this kind of thing. I think I had shared this list with you earlier also. What are the fact checking websites I sent you. I think this I had talked about earlier, that don't forward or share any news without verifying. Write comments in the comment section by giving your authentic reasons. Write to the editor, reporter, etc. So these are things. Yeah. So in the next meeting that we do probably on 13th June, I will be talking about fact checking and photo checking, because that is something very important. Most people are asking about that. How can ordinary people do fact checking and photo checking? So, I mean, this is a typical example of this student leader, that she was injured and she had a cast on one of her hand, and then some website just flipped the photo on the other way and said that, look, she has now changed the cast, she has put it on the other hand. So this kind of very nasty campaigns have been run, that people have been running by doing these fake or kind of engineered photos or doctored photos. So we'll talk about that in the next thing. Well, this list I had shared earlier also, that what are the tasks that our volunteers should be doing. You're familiar with that. And this action plan I had shared earlier.